Raf, thank you so much for joining us on the show again. Walt hasn't scared you off.
You're welcome.
Or Tiny, we call him Tiny sometimes.
Oh, good gag. Now, Raf is a building biologist, and these are some of my most favourite segments on the show. So what is a building biologist exactly?
Well, basically, building biologists study what makes people sick in buildings.
Okay.
So we work with doctors and health practitioners to say, when they're treating someone and say, why are you getting ill? Everything we're doing is not helping. There's something going on where you work or where you live. So we go in and investigate, so to speak.
It's funny because, you know, before I started doing this show, all this wishy-washy stuff about all the paints make you sick or whatever it might be, or, you know, your home's making you sick, you kind of think it's literally that wishy-washy nonsense. But 100%, when you delve into it, there is science behind this. It's not making it up. Like the paints you put on the wall, you know, the fabrics you use, they can make you sick.
100% they can. It's just some of the most interesting stuff. That's why I love
She's
these
obsessed
things.
with all
I am.
this.
I'm literally obsessed. And I think when you are having these conversations with patients or with people, when you kind of share with them the types of things that are floating around inside the home, is it a real kind of awakening moment? Are they genuinely shocked?
It is, because you can't visually see it. So they go, oh, well, the air looks fine, it feels fine. But, you know, when we collect air samples, it goes under microscopes and it's amplified, and you look and it's nasty. You see synthetic mineral fibers, and you see, you know, dog allergens, you see their dog hair, the cat hair, there's so much that comes in. And on dust, if you look at dust just as it is, there's so much stuff on it. You're not just breathing in dust.
Yeah.
So what are some of the big offenders? So let's say this house here today. Talk us through here, because I know Lisa is a gorgeous home, her beautiful kids.
And a really clean appearing
Very
home.
clean house.
Yeah.
But sniffly noses, coughs and colds, you know, during summer, during spring, all seasons. What are some things we're finding in houses?
Yeah, so often with subfloor spaces in Australia, if moisture can get under there, there's always mold issue, or often mold issues down there. On a slightly busy road here, so vehicle emissions are a big thing, especially if they're stopping and accelerating at that particular point.
So particles and exhaust and the fuel and carbons and poisons and things.
Exactly, particulates, you know, all that type of thing,
And
like
dust
with the smoke.
from the road as well.
Yeah, dust from the road, it all comes up, but that's some of the mold and the vehicle emissions. When they do renos, as we were talking earlier, everyone's renovating in COVID and so on, and then spending time in the home. So now when winter comes, it's more closed up. So if you've done your painting and your finishes everywhere and so on, that all starts off gassing, and so you get a lot of that.
Funny, because in COVID, when we're all locked in our homes, we were spending more time in there, not mixing with people at all, but people are still getting bugs, not realising that quite often it's spending more time in the house, you're getting sick.
Well, when you are out and about, you are naturally exposed to probably clean air or areas of cleaner air than what would be inside your home. COVID hits, people are renovating, people are moving throughout the home, they're using more chemicals, they're doing this. It's, you know, it becomes this more higher exposure area, doesn't it? The air quality reduces, the home's shut up, it's winter.
Yeah, and absolutely. And depending on where you live and where it's a high pollutant area or not, but most of the time, inside the home, it's a lot more polluted. And that's from air fresheners. You're asking, you know, air fresheners and things you don't ever think about. There's so many fragrances in so many different products, and that all is off gassing all the time. And eventually, like a glass of water, when it gets full and tips over and then you start reacting, it's quite hard to get back from that. So it's better to just filter it through something as opposed to your lungs and your whole body being the filter.
What are some of the conditions which we're seeing arise from things in our home? Like, what are some things that it's triggering?
Yeah, so it depends on what the pollutant is. But when people, for example, doing the renos and it's chemical off-gassing, they get very sore, red eyes. They get headaches, really fatigued. I mean, it's hard because so many things cause headaches and fatigue. But headaches and fatigue are a big one. But the red eyes.
But it's really, I find the conversation in general really interesting, because historically we would go straight to Western medicine to help me with what's happening in, you know, why have I got a headache? Why have I got this? Why have I got that? But actually considering what's happening inside your own home maybe is one of the most important elements of that.
It's huge. And that's why, I mean, even Hippocrates said that in Hippocratic, he said that where you live, what you eat and your lifestyle can make you sick. And where you live was a big one. And they found in the Genome Project, they thought genetics could write off everything in terms, or be the reason for everything. And they actually found that genetics basically loads the gun, but the environment pulls the trigger. And that's what actually came out of that whole project, saying, no, in your environment, that's the triggers are happening.
Yeah.
And
Putting it
that's-
back to, basics for mums and dads sitting at home now that have never even heard us talk about this. We're talking things like asthma, eczema, runny noses, headaches, nausea, fatigue, insomnia. It's things that you don't really think about and associate, which, you actually need to start thinking about pulling out, capturing and taking out of your home. And that's where something like this would come in. So this is obviously this is an air purifier. So how do these work?
So air purifiers, they're different kinds, but what's really critical is that you have something to take particles out of the air. So this will have a pre-filter, we call like a rock stopper, to take the sort of bigger stuff out and actually help protect the filter behind it. Then the sort of hospital grade HEPA filter is really important because it's really dense. So it will protect and take out all those finer particulates.
Is that the violin-y looking?
Yes, that sort
accordion
of back and
looking
forth
thing,
exactly right. That accordion thing is really, really important. So because normally you would breathe that in and your lungs must do all of that, which they're amazingly capable of doing.
And then you cough it out.
And you cough, but this takes the finer stuff which gets into the lower respiratory, down into the alveoli and the lungs. The HEPA helps with those. The bigger particles, you can usually cough out and sneeze out and cope a lot better.
Furballs. They're all the furballs that you cough up well.
The boogers in the nose and things.
And this would really ultimately help with reducing your individual toxic load. Would that be fair to say?
Because it does both. So all those particles the HEPA filter's dealing with, but then the activated carbon's really important for all the vapors. So the chemical off-gassing, the microbial VOCs given off by mold, and anything vapor related, the vehicle emissions that aren't particulate related, they're chemical related, that you must have both. Some will have one or the other, but it's really important to have
You're
both.
only doing half the job.
It's a sad state of affairs that we kind of have to filter now our air.
I just think it's actually brilliant we have the ability to do that. We are very mindful of these things that can literally make us sick in the home.
Look, it's no secret that I've been a big advocate for this because I help promote
single-handedly. Walt has single-handedly created
this I got to promote for them, and the feedback I get from people who have said, I've got one and listened to you and we've used it has been phenomenal. So from an expert, not just me, do they work?
Yeah, they absolutely do work. Like we have particle counters where we will test the air going in the room, and then we'll test the air coming out. And you will see how the particulate levels drop. We've tested VOC levels and all that type of thing, and they certainly work. It's not complex technology, but it works. Luckily, it's not complex technology, and it's easy to do if you have a decent system where air's not getting past the filters and so on.
And I mean, the easy way to check that at home is to literally clean the filters, and you will see all of that stuff that's been floating around the air that's been captured into those filters.
It's always an eye-opener, Raf. I appreciate you coming in. Thanks, mate. We've got a couple of these. We might go and set them up in the kids' bedrooms, in the playrooms, and kind of have a fiddle with them, get Lisa onto it and see how we're looking. Appreciate you coming in. Give us an elbow.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Take care.